TVS Apache RR 310. Does it still make sense? That's the question that has been bugging me ever since TVS launched the 2025 edition model about 2 weeks back. So the first edition was launched in 2017 and 7 years on, a lot of things remain unchanged. Sure, TVS has given it timely updates like more features, new color options and some nice goodies like adjustable suspension, optional. And with the 2025 update, TVS has bumped up the performance, it has tweaked the design to a certain extent and enlarged the feature list even further, but still a lot of things remain unchanged. And in that case, in this day and age, should you consider buying the RR 310? We try to answer that by riding the motorcycle around the coast high performance track. Let's see how it goes. But do bear in mind, this is just our first impressions based on our experience riding around the racetrack, which means a lot of questions remain to be answered related to the real world scenario. Let's see how it goes. Winglets. Now this is something you would have seen on much bigger motorcycles which make much more power and need them in certain scenarios. On a bike like this, not so much unless you are a racer for whom every second counts. But having said that, these winglets make the motorcycle look like a much serious track bike. What is your opinion? Let us know in the comments. Another new visual element is this transparent clutch cover. Now these are pretty common in Ducati motorcycles and I must say, it looks quite fascinating. And then besides the introduction of this new bomber grey color option, the list of visual changes end there, which I think shouldn't have been the case. It would have been a good idea to go back to the drawing board and give it minor nip and tuck to keep the visual freshness alive. The quality levels of the motorcycle continue to be top-notch for this segment. Be it the ruggedness of plastic panels, the tactility of switches, or the finishing of paint on every panel, the RR 310 exudes premiumness. TVS motorcycles have always been benchmarks on the technology front in their respective segments, which has always been the case with the RR 310 as well. While it was already loaded with features, TVS has made it even more attractive in this regard. The already data-intensive TFT console has received changes to its layout and more connectivity options. You also get a bi-directional quick shifter as standard in the higher two variants and cruise control, which is common across variants. Depending on your mood and riding conditions, you can also choose one amongst the 4 riding modes, which alter the ABS and traction control intervention, throttle response, and power delivery. For all those of you who think all of that is not enough, TVS is offering optional Dynamic and Dynamic Pro Kit. So Dynamic Kit costs Rs 18,000 and it brings along adjustable suspension at the front and back, tire pressure monitoring system and brass coated chain. While the Dynamic Pro Kit, which is worth Rs 16,000, it enables a lot of cornering oriented functions like cornering ABS, cornering traction control, wheelie control, cornering cruise control and more. Now the real mechanical changes have been done to the engine. So the internal have been revised. It gets lighter forged pistons, bigger airbox, bigger throttle body, all of which have contributed in considerable bump in the power output and marginal bump in torque output. So earlier it used to make about 34 bhp, now it makes close to 38 bhp and the torque output is at 39 Newton meters. TVS says that all of this has improved the roll-on acceleration as well as acceleration from the standstill. Since most of you viewers love to hear the exhaust note of motorcycles, here's what the new RR 310 sounds like. A disclaimer, it doesn't sound very different than the previous model. Let us know in the comments what do you think about this exhaust. The hardware package remains largely the same. It continues to be underpinned by a split-type release frame that rides on 17-inch alloy wheels with upmarket Michelin Road 5 tires. The suspension setup comprises USDs at the front and a monoshock at the rear, while the stopping power comes from 300 and 240 pedal type discs at the front and rear respectively. The seat height of the bike sits at 810 curb weight is 174 kg, and the fuel tank capacity is 11 liters. The Apache RR310 has always been a competent motorcycle to ride at a racetrack, and that continues to be the case with the latest addition. For both sessions, we rode the bike in track mode, which gives you access to unrestricted performance and least electronic intervention. However, TVS technicians kept the race-tuned dynamic stability control activated for us to get a feel of the bike's cornering-oriented riding aids. The engine delivers an enjoyable punch from the mid-range to the top end, and the power comes in linearly yet strongly. The throttle response is crisp without being snappy, while the gears shift with minimal effort. The quick shifter works brilliantly for the most part, especially in the higher revs, which makes the bike even more involving to ride on the track. The Coast Performance track is a lovely mix of long sweepers and tight bends, and we were mostly shuffling between 3rd, 4th and 5th gears. Owing to the 3rd gear being short, I was running out of revs too soon, and shifting to 4th meant losing drive out of corners. Hence, on many occasions, I kept the engine on the boil in 3rd gear. But this was not a problem, since the new RR doesn't really feel strained in the higher revs. What is further impressive is that the vibrations aren't too high or intrusive, especially when you compare it with its naked version, the RR310. Courtesy of the TVS technicians setting up the adjustable suspension just right, the motorcycle felt taut, stable and composed without losing the front end feel. While the RR310 responds precisely to your inputs, it is also friendly enough to allow you to make mistakes and correct them. Adding to its cornering abilities are the Michelin Road 5 tires, which warm up in no time and deliver tremendous grip and feel. Similarly, the front brake delivers a bite strong enough to allow you to brake late into corners. What acted as a fly in the ointment was the limited corner clearance. The foot pegs start grounding when you start pushing the bike around corners, which might get disturbing, especially to the new riders. Also, the taller riders may find seat space to be inadequate, especially at a racetrack where you need to continuously move around on the seat. Barring that, the sitting ergonomics are sporty and engaging without being uncomfortably demanding. So does the TVS Apache RR310 still make sense? Well, I think if you keep the old design aspect aside, it does. It's really admirable how this overall package still comes together so nicely and gives you a very nice riding experience at a racetrack. The way the overall well-engineered chassis, suspension, brakes, tires and the engine performance come together to give you an experience which is not just likable for a beginner, but also should be entertaining for an experienced rider. That is commendable. Talking about the engine, the changes that TVS has done, well, it's very difficult to verify their claims about the bump in performance here at the track. But one thing I felt is that the engine refinement and smoothness are better than the RTR 310, a motorcycle about which we have been complaining for the lack of refinement and higher vibrations. Vibrations are something that were very much toned down on this motorcycle, and even with this all the changes that have been done to the performance of the motorcycle, the internal revisions in the engine, they have resulted in the motorcycle feeling very less strangled in the higher revs. So if you are someone who wants a very versatile motorcycle, so we have ridden this bike, the previous iteration in the city, and we have also toured on the RR310, one of the previous iterations, and now we have ridden it at the racetrack. This is definitely quite a practical and versatile motorcycle. But bear in mind, if you're someone who's going to go at the racetrack quite a lot, quite often, and is really focused on improving their riding skills, I feel the KTM RC390 is slightly better on that regards. Because I just rode the RC390 a couple of months back, and that memory is etched and it's quite fresh in my mind, and I could tell that the seating ergos of the RC390 KTM are more roomy. You have more room to move around on the motorcycle. The pegs don't scrape as easily as on the RR310. We witnessed that the pegs on this motorcycle scrape really quickly, which is a little disturbing. But more than that, you have a lot of revs on the KTM RC390 to play with. On this motorcycle, you will keep hitting the rev ceiling, especially at such a free-flowing track. So there are these things apart from the design. As I've said in the beginning, this is a close to 7-year-old design, and just these addition of winglets and transparent clutch covers, they don't really give it a fresh visual appeal. So if these are things that don't really matter for you and you want an affordable feature-packed super sport, something that will be very practical on your daily commutes, you can take it to occasional race tracks, you can take it to occasional tours as well. So I think the Apache RR310 still makes quite some sense.